One day, my friend got a call from one of our friends, and he was 4 hours away, down past the city, meeting up with old friends, but apparently he had got himself into a bit of strife. He really needed to leave where he was. The problem was he had no money because someone apparently stole his wallet. He couldn't get a bus or a train home. He was pretty much stuck in an unfamiliar place. So my friend who got the call called me, and we decided to take my car, and I let him drive, as I really trusted his driving. We drove 4 hours down south past the city to go pick him up, and the trip down didn't seem very long. It did take a while to find him, however, but once we did, we left and headed back for home. We also stopped in the city, however, for a break before making the trek home. Now, my friend that we went and picked up was acting a little weird. It's like he was under the influence of something. I wasn't sure what, but it was like he was coming down, and he was acting erratically at times. It kind of scared me a little, but he seemed to level out as time went on. But something else decided to happen. My friend driving had informed me that the car was losing power. The car was running fine before. At this point, it was starting to get dark, so having the lights on was draining power. We pulled over to the side of the road, turned it off, and put our hazard lights on, but they were draining power as well. We made another call to our friend's housemate and told him the situation. He said he would get in his car and start making his way down to meet us, but in the meantime, we tried to keep pressing forward. We kept having to stop every 5 to 10 minutes because the car kept dying. It obviously wasn't the battery because we still had power, but not enough to keep the battery charged. It had to be the alternator dying. The drive was getting extremely long because of this, but luckily we spotted another broken down car on the side of the freeway. There was no one in it and the doors were unlocked, so my friend opened the bonnet, took out the battery from that car, put it in our car, and the car was running at full capacity again. We managed to meet our other friend at a small country town an hour and a half away from home, and we decided to swap batteries. Our friend in the other car stayed close behind us in case if my car died and we needed to swap the batteries over again. But we just made it back to my house. It was pretty late, but the guys changed the batteries back over. I thanked them all for their help, and then they all left. Luckily, my friend who drove my car had left his car at my house, so I didn't have to go any further than I needed to. I felt really grateful to have good friends that helped me out with the car. The next morning, I explained to my dad what had happened. We had to get a new alternator and a new battery for the car, then it was all fixed. I was dating my then partner, and we lived 2 hours apart. Because I had a license and a car, I would drive down to see him, or he would catch a train up to see me, and then I would drive him back home. There were also times where I would just drive down and pick him up, and drive back up to my house, and then drive back in a few days' time, or he would catch the train back home. Well, that's what happened this time around, but I had 2 friends with me as well for the drive. It was getting dark and we were about an hour away from home, and as I approached a hill and started to climb it, the car started to lose power. Don't tell me it's the alternator again. I had to pull over. The car had lost all power, it wasn't going anywhere. Luckily, I had a mate who lived just 15 minutes away from where we were. I called him and he came and picked us up. We had to leave the car where it was because he didn't have a battery for a smaller car to swap batteries with me, as he had a much bigger car. We all ended up crashing the night at his place, which was really nice. We actually had a good night there, which lightened my mood. The next morning I called my dad and I told him what had happened. He told me he would come down, pick us up, and help us get the car home. 2 hours later, my dad arrived, and we went and got the car. I thanked my mate for rescuing us and letting us stay the night. He then drove home, and then the rest of us drove back to my house, with my dad following close behind. My other two friends were picked up from my house soon after. My car needed another alternator and another battery again, but my dad decided to check further into why the car had gone through 2 alternators in a matter of a year. I'm not 100% sure if the problem was fully fixed, but it was fixed and I was able to drive it again. I had moved down around near where my then partner was living. I got over the long distance thing and I had outgrown my hometown, so I decided to relocate to be with my partner. We lived with some friends in a share house. We lived in the garage. We had lived there for a few months, and one of the roommates in the house was having problems with his car, and he couldn't get to work. Now, because my partner was paying our friend off for his car, and we were driving it, my car wasn't being driven that much. So I let the roommate use my car. He even paid me rental for using the car. After a few months of letting him drive it, it decided to die again. But this time, we didn't know if it was the alternator or what. But we decided the car was dead, and we decided to sell it at a cheap price to someone. The roommate ended up fixing his own car in the end.